The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey, coming to you cordless, everybody. It's the Giant Head from Minneapolis. It's Tuesday night, September 3rd, 2024. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Sydney, Australia. And here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis, it's 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters Tonight, episode number 154. If you're keeping score at home, I hope you guys had a nice Labor Day holiday. I'm talking to the United States now. You know, we have a few people in. I mentioned Sydney. I sometimes mention Singapore, who listen to us all over the world, but it's mostly the United States. Who are we kidding? You know. And not only that, I mean, I'll be perfectly blunt here. Most of our viewing is on demand. We don't have a lot of people that watch us live, but that's okay too. You got to do the show sooner or later. Might as well do it live, get it over with. So anyway, I hope you had a nice holiday. I do. What do we got going on here? Well, you know, as OK Boomer, we got it going on. We do, you know that. So tonight's Phone Fun Monday. Except it's not Monday; it's Tuesday because of the holiday. So it's Phone Fun Phone Fun Tuesday. There, I can say it. So I encourage you to call in because I got a monologue here for an hour. And you know, I just it's a talk show. We talk. That's what we do. And if you want to call in, I'd really love you. This is the perfect night to do it because we have a lot of times we have guests. A lot of times we have pre-recorded interviews. You know, you can't talk during those. You know, but you want to call in. Tonight's the night to call in. So you see on the scroll down here. There's 3 ways to call into the show. You can use video. You can call with your webcam. This is the first talk show in America that lets people call in with a webcam, and that's not my boast. Talkers Magazine actually said that. And so to do that, you go. I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but this is what you do. You go to a web page on our website. The page is jimatnight.com. That's our website /call. Or if you go to the website at the top menu, it says there's a menu item that says call in. You go to that page and there's a big blue button at the top of the page. You click that button and you will end up in the preview screen before you can check your camera and mic, make sure everything's working properly. You get a little preview of yourself, get the crap out of your teeth, comb your hair, whatever you got to do, and then you push join at the bottom of this page and you're in our queue. It's simple. It's super utterly simple. One of the very first callers we ever had said it was harder to find the website than it was to call in, and he's absolutely right. It is. So that's if for those of you now. So let me just be blunt here. Since we started this, we've been doing this show now 13 months as of last week. We started on July 31st, 2023. So yeah. So and this, like I said, this is a 154th first show, 54th show. Excuse me. So what we've learned, which and I'm actually kind of surprised by this, but maybe not really. I don't know. What we've learned over the last year is that people do not like to call in because they don't want their face on the screen. Okay, fine. So now, as of February of last year, we now have a call-in telephone number that's right here, 563-999-3435. This was just like a regular radio call-in show. You call that number, sexy British lady talks to you, you're put in the queue. I see your number up on the screen here, and I push the button, I put you on. It's that simple too. Very, very simple. And the third way you can contact us live in real time is text messaging. I have a screen off to the side here. It shows the text messages that come in. The text message number is 408-458-5088. That's 408-458-5088. And you can also, a little known fact, you can leave us a voicemail, that number, even when we're not on the air. You got is it 90 seconds or 30 seconds? I can't remember. I think it's 90 seconds to say anything you want. If you amuse us, we might put on the show later on. So that's what we got going on tonight. Tomorrow night, Jeff Meyer, CEO and publisher of Calling News, is going to be with us, and we'll shoot the shit with him, which we do regularly. So yeah, and then you're wondering what about Thursday? I'll tell you about Thursday. Thursday, I'm taking off because I'm taking all of next week off. We're going to be off from this Thursday, the 5th, through Monday. We come back on Monday, September 16th. I know it's terrible. We're going to take a whole week off, and it's not summer anymore. Well, technically, I guess whatever you want, however you want to call it. I'm going to Niagara Falls. I'm taking my wife. I'm also taking, I'm not kidding about this, I'm taking 14 of her relatives. 16 of us are going to Niagara Falls. Really romantic. I've never been there before. I always wanted to be there. Always wanted to see it. So yeah, her aunt had this idea. I got to give her credit to her aunt too. Her aunt got us. We're flying. Well, most of us are flying from Minneapolis. Not all of us, but most of us are flying from Minneapolis. Those are. We got a group rate. We're flying on Delta for $50. Now, I don't know if that means we get wings on our airplane. I don't know. It's $50. Can't complain. We're flying to Buffalo. So got the whole week off. And unfortunately, we're going to miss the presidential debate on Tuesday, the 10th. Now, the vice presidential debate is going to be on October 1st, Tuesday. And usually we do the day before that would be the day we do our month in review panel. That would be Tim Conaway, Don Zero, and Larry Newman. And I've asked the guys now, I sent them an email today, whether we could move it to Tuesday after the vice presidential debate. So far, Larry came back, yes. The other two guys haven't heard from them yet. But I'm kind of assuming we're going to do that. There's a possibility because of Don Zero's employment. Usually a lot of times he can only make Monday nights, but we'll see. So anyway, that's what's going on here. So I got a whole bunch of we got a bunch of guests lined up for the rest of September. When I get back, it'll be a lot of fun. Matter of fact, we might be making, I shouldn't say we might, we're probably going to be making some structural changes to the show here in the next couple weeks. So, and you'll find out about that. And they will be visible too. So, and there's a reason we're doing that. I'm not going to share that with you yet either, but let me just tell you, it's a good thing. Okay. Things are going well here. So that's our, the rundown for this evening. Our sponsor is Conk News. That's Jeff Meyer's website at conk.com or conk.news, either one. It's the best news aggregator on the internet. I'm not kidding. Check it out. Conk.com, conk.com. We'll run a little commercial for theirs a little later on. Okay. So, you're wondering what's going on today? I'll tell you what's going on today. Americans are stupid. That's what's going on. Now, okay, so Columbia University came back into session today. They had their first day of school. It was marked by the usual protests and riots. I mean, I think from what I understand, the protests finally did get out of hand and there was some violence. I'm not absolutely certain on that, but that's the impression I'm under based on what I've read. I'm not there, you know. I joke about this, and we put a big billboard up on our show description about Queers for Palestine because it's the most freaking funniest thing I've heard in 20 years. Yeah, Queers for Palestine, yay. Yeah, you go to Palestine and they'll push you off the roof. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Queers for Palestine. Yeah, yeah. I don't understand this. So Bob Hogue wrote an article in Red State today. And he said, and this brings me to one, he's a middle-aged guy. He's got a family. He's about my age. And he said this thing I've been thinking is like, I don't understand how Hamas bombs Israel out of the clear blue. It's basically like their Pearl Harbor. That it was a completely unprovoked, completely surprise attack. And they get the 1,700 of their people get killed, and not only that, some of them in the most brutal, bizarre manner. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm not making this up. There were babies that were killed. They got burned to death in ovens in front of their parents. The Hamas soldiers would take the babies out of their parents' arms, put them in the ovens, and turn them on. and the babies died that way. That's just one example of, I mean, it was atrocious. There's no doubt about this. Women raped multiple ways, not let alone multiple times, you know. So what happened over the weekend is they killed 6 of the hostages that the Israelis were trying to rescue. And Hamas has told um, Israel now that every time they try to rescue hostages, they will kill them if they find out ahead of time. That's what they've told them. Okay, so you're dealing with people that it's unmitigated evil. That's there's no other way to put this. Not to mention the fact that all these kids, and when I say kids, I'm talking about these college students. They are going on and on about all the Palestinians Hamas has killed, and yet those numbers come from Hamas, and we can't trust them to save our lives or their lives or whoever lives are being saved. Nobody's. So we don't. The numbers are might and probably are completely false. So, and like Bob Hogue said in this article, how could these people be this stupid? I mean, so you have evil. Now, okay. And the thing is, I get the idea. I understand the thing that people think that Israel stole that land 75 years ago. I get all that. But here's the deal with that, folks. And this is a axiom of life. And not only that, it's code in the United States, it's codified in our legal code. It's the statute of limitations. It happened 75 years ago. It's done. It's like you're not going to redo it. You want to get rid of Israel? Yeah, you go right ahead. Tel Aviv is one of the greatest cities in the world. So, and what does Hamas have in Gaza? And this bears repeating. They've had Gaza completely free and clear for 14 years. They've done absolutely nothing. Nothing. They haven't even built any buildings, as far as I know. They've done nothing. Whereas the Israelis came in 75 years ago and took this dusty piece of real estate and not only created a fine country, but literally built one of the most impressive cities on earth. So okay, like I said, I get the idea that, okay, Israel stole the land. Okay, fine. Yeah, maybe they did. That's a argument we can have. It's a discussion to be had, but it's over. It's done. Now, in the United States and most Western countries have this, and it varies from place to place, of course, but you have statutes of limitations on crimes, like here in the United States, if you I'm just pulling this out of my butt here, but as a general rule, if committed like embezzlement over 10 years ago, you can't get arrested for it anymore if they catch you, like at that late date. 1 year, yeah. 5 years, yeah. 7 years, yeah. 10 years, no. You're done. It's over. And that's because things in life time out. And it's hard to explain. And the thing is, for stuff like revolution, it's hard to codify. Here's another example. So they're in California. They're having great debates right now on reparations for Black people. Black people were enslaved in the United States 170 years ago, and people think that they should be literally repaid for this in financial compensation. Okay, so now the time to have done that, slavery ended in the United States in 1865. The time to do that would have been around 1880, 1890. Yeah, maybe you got a point. Maybe you can get that through. Right now, there's not only not a single person who was a slave alive in the United States, there's also not a single person who owned a slave alive in the United States. It's way, way past bedtime for this, folks. That's the thing. No, it's not going to. It shouldn't happen. The people in California, well, and the legislature there is crazy anyway. I mean that you want to take bets on when that uh, state is going to go bankrupt? Sure, I'll give you an over under. I don't know. I don't know what it would be. Actually, I don't know what it'd be. What, 5 years? I'd say 10 years for sure. And they're going to go run into the federal government and get bailed out. Of course they will. You know, there's something called modern monetary theory, and it sounds like I'm getting off track here, but I'm not. Um, I was reading about this woman named Stephanie Kelton. She's an economist, and she's one of the biggest proponents of this modern monetary theory. Basically, I gotta wrap this up in a nutshell. I'm sure she'd tell me I was wrong, but it's basically the fact that the federal government doesn't have to worry about paying its debt back, that we can just accumulate debt indefinitely and nothing really will happen. I have a I have a response to that. That's bullshit. It's complete utter bullshit. But this is a theory that's been making the rounds not really in no serious economists take this seriously, because I don't know if you know this, the debt on the United States has accumulated debt at this point of $37 trillion. It's we're adding to the debt at an annual rate of 120% of our GDP, and very soon we're not going to be able to afford to make the interest payments anymore. I mean, so I was talking about California. Yeah, what about this too? So the reason I brought that up is because here's the theme of my whole thing. We are at a point in America right now where people are propagating and and opinions, or even proposals that make completely utterly that are nonsensical. They're nonsensical. You can, like this thing about getting back to the thing about Hamas. All these kids, they're concerned about all the Hamas that Israel's killed, which we do not have a verified figure for. And yet you don't have a choice. These people came into your country and boldly killed your citizens, 1,700 of them, with no provocation whatsoever. What are you supposed to do? And the thing is, if you do nothing, they're going to do it again. And that's exactly what the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, bless her little heart, is proposing, that there should be a ceasefire and they should just forget all about it. No. If you forget all about it, it's going to happen again. And this is playing out over and over again in our entire country and culture. The reason there's so much crime is because, and we know this is a modus operandi of liberal DA attorneys. I understand this, but the reason is because no one's prosecuted for them. So if you catch people and put them back on the street, they're going to do it again, because why wouldn't they? It's a matter of simple human incentive. People don't stop doing shit until they're forced to stop, until they can't do it anymore. It's very, very simple. And you got the same thing going on in the Israeli war. If you just say, okay, we're going to negotiate, I literally heard this, that at some point, that this was a few years ago, I guess, anyway, that I don't, maybe this isn't true. I did read this, but that Israel actually gave back to Hamas 1,000 of their soldiers to get back one kidnapped prisoner. That's ridiculous. So, why wouldn't they do it again? They're going to kidnap more people. Yeah, geez, am I a brilliant SOB for coming up with that? No, it's just simple human logic. It just is, and this is what we've got going on here all the time. So David Strom he was writing about this in Hot Air today. Our friend, he comes on the show regularly, and his article was about the fact that he thinks that these um, protests at Columbia University, and going under the presumption that they're going to rear their ugly head again at campuses nationwide, is going to have an effect on the 2024 election. And I've compared the 2024 election to 1980, Reagan and Carter, but he makes a very, very interesting comparison here. He thinks it's going to be more like 1968, which was Humphrey versus Nixon. And two things there that are very, very prescient. First of all, there was the same protests for the Vietnam War in 1968 as there are on campus now. But I would say they're not on the surface, they look alike. They're not alike at all, because in 1968, the students were protesting. We were losing, like we lost 55,000 people in that war and got nothing out of it. And history has basically come down to on the side of the students. The students were right, basically. I mean, that's the general consensus now, you know. So, and I don't want to, if you're a veteran, I don't want to sound like I am disparaging what you did. It's no, matter of fact, if anything, we gave up, and we've been fighting these wars all over the place. This is where Tulsi Gabbard and Trump and all these people. This is what they're talking about. We never win. You know, if we're going to fight a war, let's fight to win. And the thing is, we are the biggest, most powerful military on earth. Why can't we win? And they didn't do that in Vietnam either. So the South Vietnamese or our side lost that war because we basically threw in the towel. We gave up. So all those 55,000 people basically died for nothing. And so that's what was going on there. The kids were right. That's terrible. Here, I mean, I don't even have to wait for history. The kids are never going to be right. They're idiots. They're stupid. The title of the show today was "Stupid as a Stupid Does." No, we a- and even getting down to the election. I'm jumping ahead here, but I'm going to get back to this thing about 68. How can any? I go to dinner parties. People invite me places. Barbecue for Labor Day, and I live in Minneapolis. I live in one of the most liberal cities in America. Everybody's I know, virtually everybody I know here in town is a liberal. Now, ironically, maybe the only person that isn't a liberal is David Strom. He lives here too. Although here's the irony: David Strom and I never got together in the flesh. We keep talking about it; it's never happened. But I talk to him all the time. Uh, and they're the thing I noticed when conversation turned to politics, and I clam up because people know I do this here, do have this little show where I talk about politics, and they're fine with me sitting and listening to them as long as I don't say anything, and I don't want to either because I really enjoy listening to the conversation. The impression I get is that all of these people are going to vote for Kamala Harris, even though I'm starting to notice a subtle subtext of the fact that they think she's going to lose. Yeah, and God in heaven, and that's my point here. I hope she does, because how can we keep electing people who are stupider and stupider all the time. I know that's not a word. Don't call me up and tell me about it. I'm not a big fan of George W. Bush, George Bush Jr. He was president from 2000 2008. I think the guy was a moron. I really do, and still do. And I hear people all the time say, "No, no, no." In meetings, if you were here, he really wasn't that. He was not a stupid guy. I don't believe them. I don't. I think George W. Bush was and is a stupid person. I do. And he had no business being president. Now, the other thing people say, and especially my liberal friends, but he's such a nice guy. And he is, yeah. I wouldn't mind having a beer with him at all. You know, we can talk about all sorts of shit. Do I want him as my president? No, I don't. And if you're a Republican, yeah, you can call up and debate with me on that. That's fine. Numbers on the bottom of the screen. You can call in with your camera. But no, I don't want him as my president. I think he's dumb. And I thought when he left office, I thought, well, this will be the worst president I'll see in my lifetime. And then Barack Obama came along. Now, I won't say Barack Obama is dumb by any means. No, if anything, no. No, he's a very, very cunning, shrewd, and intelligent man. He is. He has no talent to get anything accomplished. And that was the problem there too. He was actually a worse president than George W. Bush, in my opinion, anyway. Even though he was, he was stupendously intelligent. He was not smart. Okay, so why am I bringing this up? Then we get to Joe Biden. And Trump. I voted for Trump in 2016. Why did I vote for Trump? Because I knew Hillary, was going to be a disaster. I didn't know about Trump. I thought, well, let's take a flyer. And I knew I did that myself, personally knowing he could be a disaster too. But I knew she was going to be. So I took a chance, and he turned out, at the end of the day, he was pretty good. He actually got things done. I have inventoried this in the last, since 1960, which I would count as the start of the modern era. Of the 12 presidents we've had, 5 of them were actually good at getting something accomplished. That would be Kennedy, Nixon, Um, oh Jesus, Jim, don't don't lose your don't lose your Kennedy, Nixon, uh, Reagan, Clinton, and Trump. Those were the 4 guys that were actually they could actually move the needle. They actually got something done. The rest of the 7 of them were basically placeholders, you know? And we just had, um, Biden, a stupendous placeholder. I mean, I I don't because he's kind of, been pushed off to the wayside now, many people aren't actually, like, paying much attention to this, but he went out this weekend campaigning for Kamala Harris, you know? He's more of a mess now, personally, than he was during that debate. He can't talk anymore. It's, the guy he's lost it. He's in the process of losing it big time, but the amazing thing is, the reason I bring that up is because even with his cognitive failings, I don't think that's the problem. I think he's a delusional jackass. He's still going on about the fact, that that he brought in a record 16 million jobs and all this sort of crap, and and the very fine people thing about Trump, and it's like, it's stuff that is, and this is the real amazing thing, and I've said this, if you want to talk about degrees of lying, about the fact that when he came into office, inflation was at 9%. That's a complete, utter bald-faced lie. It was 1.4%, and he put it up to 9%. It's like during his tenure. And how did he do that? By printing too much money. And any economist could tell you that that was going to happen. I was sitting here in my underwear in Minneapolis saying, "Yeah, we're gonna get inflation." There were people in Congress who were pleading with him not to do this because they knew what was gonna happen. And, well, it did. Anyway, getting back to the whole thing about Nixon, and so I've been comparing. David Strom compared this coming election to 1968. I've been comparing it to 1980, and here's his logic. His logic is that, yeah, first of all, like I was saying, there were um, protests on campus for a war, a lot of them, as many as there are now, and secondly, the fact that as a politician, Nixon was very disliked. And not for the same reason, Trump was a bodacious, rude jackass. Nixon was very socially awkward. It's astonishing the guy got elected. It really is. I mean, he was not a good campaigner. He was not a good speech giver. I mean, matter of fact, I can't think of a single speech he gave that's memorable. I mean, people did not like him, frankly, and he was up against Hubert Humphrey, who is a beloved senator from Minnesota and also the vice president at that time. He had a and the interesting thing about that is that Nixon was involved in 2 of the closest presidential elections in American history. He barely lost to JFK in 1960, and it's widely presumed now that Kennedy won that election by cheating, and also that Nixon knew it. That was the other thing too. He knew they cheated. How did they cheat when it wasn't? And I don't know if Jack Kennedy himself actually knew this was happening. His father bought off a whole bunch of people in Cook County, the center of Chicago, and that tipped Illinois, and that tipped the electoral count. So one county in America tipped the whole election. Basically, it was tipped because Joe Kennedy paid them to tip it. I have no idea. I don't even know historically if anyone knows if Jack Kennedy knew this was happening, but supposedly it did. There's apparently ample evidence now. And Nixon lost. It was one of the closest elections ever, both in the electoral count and the popular vote. And Nixon just barely lost it. And he knew they cheated, and he never said anything. And there's historians have said that was like his finest hour. He could have brought up the fact they cheated to do it, and he decided to let it ride. He didn't. So, 1968 election comes along. It's basically the opposite. Nixon barely wins, barely. And and seriously, knowing him, and I was alive then. I remember this shit. Uh, it's hard to you couldn't find a more unnaturally ungifted politician This guy had nothing going for him personally. I'm not talking about his mind. We found out later. I mean, the other thing is when he ran 4 years later in '72, he won by landslide because people were very, very he was running the country very, very well, and it was universally, acknowledged. He had no trouble winning, and that's the other thing too. The Watergate break-in in early 1972, they didn't need to do that. Everyone knew that he was gonna win. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. But anyway, and we had Jeff Shepard on here, who wrote the documentary that came out recently, Watergate: Scandals and Betrayals, and he was on the show. We talked to him for a couple hours, and but, eh, the interesting thing about that is that he talked about the fact that, and I asked him about this, about there's people who think, well, his contention is that Nixon was railroaded out of office because the Democrats seized on this whole thing about the office break-in they basically manufactured a snowball process where Nixon had no choice. And based on what I know, I think that's true. I mean, it's really when you look at Joe Biden and the stuff that Joe Biden's been accused of and pretty much proved now at this point, I mean, this went under the radar too because no um, liberal news outlet is going to report this. But was it last week or the week before? Just before they went on holiday break, the Republicans in the House released a 390-page document that basically talks about all the cheating the Biden family has done and all the money they've made cheating the American public, and documented it very, very carefully. I mean, so it's virtually well. First of all, we know for a fact that his family did this stuff. That's the thing. Jim Biden, Frank Biden, and of course, especially Hunter Biden. They were trading off their family's name. They did this. That's corruption. We're almost virtually certain that Biden got payment for it. Joe Biden himself. But my point is, what is my point? Where was I going with this? Holy shit. Uh, oh, yeah. Where was I going with this? Uh, okay, so, oh, Jesus Christ, Jim. You're freaking stupid. I was talking about how Americans are stupid. Okay, and yeah. Okay, so the thing is, oh yeah. So all right, let me get back on the train here. So my point was that every single election, it seems we are electing more and more stupid people to office. I mean, Biden, even in his prime time, was not a bright guy. Never considered bright at all, ever. Kamala Harris is an intellectual train wreck. I mean, this woman has never done anything, and and I hate to say this, women seem to be impressed with her. Oh, look, she got elected to attorney general, blah 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 blah. Well, I'll tell you, elections are popularity contests, so you're basically back in high school. You know, it's like people, and that's another thing. People in America do not elect people based on what they seem to be able to accomplish or have accomplished. There's only two criteria for a president: what they say they're going to do and whether they're capable of actually doing it. That's it. Those are all you need to know. Now, unfortunately, from the vast majority of people, you can't tell if they're capable of doing it until they get into office. But you can make some judgment based on their past experience. And this is the weird part. I've said this before. The anomaly to this was Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter had the perfect resume for somebody who's going to be president. He was a very successful governor in Georgia. He was a freaking nuclear physicist, for Christ's sake. He owned a very large business, which is still, from what I understand, Carter Farms is still the major purveyor of peanuts in the United States. He had on paper he looked perfect, and he got into office, and it did not go well. And the thing is, I'm kind of a fan of the guy personally, but you can't sugarcoat it. It did not go well. His presidency was basically a disaster, you know. So Biden, it's his presidency has been a disaster, and it's pretty obvious. That could have been predicted ahead of time. But now we got Kamala Harris, and my point is that especially she's running against a guy who's already done this. That's the other thing. I mean, he's not the incumbent, but he's already been president, and in a pretty good first term. It went pretty well, you know. So why you would even ideology aside, and of course you can't put it aside because that's exactly the problem here. Why would you vote for this woman? Why? I mean, she can't talk. She can't keep an idea straight in her head. She's avoiding the press because she literally can't talk off the top of her head at all. I mean, we've known this about her for 3 years already. Before she got anointed to this process here as the presidential nominee, she was basically the most unpopular vice president in history. I don't think that's basically. I think she actually was rated as that. You know, no one thought this woman was capable of anything, and that's because she isn't. You know, and don't give me this stuff about the fact, oh, she was an attorney general in California. Yeah, she was. Yeah, wow, you won a popularity contest. That's the problem with elections. It's like, and we're at a point now where these two people are running neck and neck. And somebody said, and it's really true, it's testament to how much people hate Trump that in a just and fair world, Trump should be 20 points ahead. He should, especially based on his previous record. Now, I don't want to jinx this. I think if things keep going the way they're going, I think Trump is going to win. He might not even win the popular vote, but I think he will clean up in the electoral count, and that's what other people are saying too. We got a call here. I'm going to take this call. I call. Hi, who's this?
Hey Jim, this is Think again.
Hey,
I wanted
Think,
to
how you
jump
doing?
on here and great. Oh my God. Today I was watching all these videos about that uh on YouTube there's people that review videos,
Yeah,
and I was watching a whole bunch of these videos that are reviewing videos from Twitter. And what the people are doing on Twitter is they're asking Alexa, is Trump a good president, right? And
yeah,
Alexa replies that I cannot, I cannot give an opinion on political matters.
right.
That's what Alexa. It's something along those lines. And then when they ask, is Kamala a good president? Alexa goes off and says all these great things that
Yes, I know.
Kamala has done. Oh, you saw
Oh,
these
think
you saw these
this was
videos?
actually on my rundown to talk about tonight. So yeah, no, I saw this. This is
Oh,
incredible. It is. But let me ask you
I don't
this.
know if you remember.
Does it
Yeah, go
hold it?
ahead.
Does this surprise you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know if you remember, but I actually went on your show and I showed and I played a clip of when during Corona had happened, and I asked how many people died from the coronavirus, and Google replied, unlike what Trump says, this amount of people have died from Corona, and I didn't know that Google at the time gave opinions like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember me playing that clip, but anyway, this is just unbelievable that they're still continuing with this. I don't know if it's corruption or manipulation,
Well, let me
but
ask
they're
you this though.
continuing with it.
Why would they stop?
Sure, that's
Why
correct.
why would they stop? No, there's no way anybody can make them stop. I mean, if they weren't in power in the executive branch, I suppose maybe you could, but there's no reason for them to stop. Is there?
No,
No.
no.
It's
I think the yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim. I'm
No,
sorry.
you go ahead.
I think that I think that the deeper question for me is uh, the fact that who is really running this. I mean, when you have a force manipulating the narrative, like I mean the information right now, like Alexa, like Google. I mean, who is really, is there a driving force? I mean, who's this group? Like before I was told that there was a group called the Illuminati, and eventually it was discovered that Bilderberg was part of them, and
Yeah.
now I think people are just calling them NGOs, non-government organizations.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe that there is a group that's a shadow government, you can say, that's controlling at least this country. I strongly believe that it's controlling the whole world. I know it's a lot of people might say that I'm a deep conspiracy theorist, but I strongly believe that there's a group that's controlling the whole world, the whole narrative. And
Well,
I'm
hey,
going to
think.
stay with my, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I tell you what. Let's be a little more accurate there. They're controlling the Western world. You know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At first, that's what I thought too. I agree with you that the Western world might be the one that's the people are more in the Western world. Does that make sense?
Yes.
A lot of these powerful people are from the Western
Yes.
world,
That's
but I
right.
think that there's yeah, I think that they're so powerful that their hands stretch out around the whole world. That's my opinion. I seen what they did in Vietnam. The when the vaccines were not didn't come out here in the United States, Vietnam had it already, and I strongly believe that they created this vaccine and used third world countries as a test. I'm talking about the Corona vaccine.
Right. Right.
They used they used third world countries as a test for the vaccine first before they started issuing it here in the Western world, or at least here in America. I don't I remember at the time it's like my family. I'm Vietnamese, by the way. My family in Vietnam was telling me that they cannot go to work. They cannot even leave their city, the city area, without getting a vaccine. So the only way that they could leave the city or go to the markets and stuff was to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And so they were basically forced to. And then it was only months after they got vaccinated, then the vaccine started becoming free here, or started becoming available here in the United States.
Well, maybe I'm a
So
conspiracy
yeah,
theorist too, but that wouldn't surprise me. I never heard this before, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. That would be par for the course as far as I can tell.
yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of I don't know. I can go deep into this about how I have friends that are young. Uh, I have a friend. He's in his 30s or something like that, and he's a strong liberal, like Democrats. I remember
Yeah.
him always talking negative about Trump. Him saying that Trump was a racist, and I was like, "Why is Trump racist?" And then he couldn't think of something, so he said, "Well, Trump is building the border." And then I was telling him, "Well, all the presidents, ever since I think Reagan, they all talked about building a border. So I mean, why is Trump building a border and actually doing it now? Why does that make him a racist?" But anyways, he's a strong liberal, and when the vaccine finally came out, he got it right away. He
Yeah.
got it right away, and now he has Bell's palsy.
No.
I'm
No
not gonna
shit.
say that it's from the yeah, and I'm not gonna say that it's from the vaccine, but for a person his age to have, do you know what Bell palsy is?
Yes,
Where
I
the
do.
eyes drool and
Yeah.
yeah, I've never seen it happen before. I've never met anybody. I never even heard of this before. But now, I mean, I know Justin Bieber had it, and I was watching people like other famous people have it, and then to see my friend have it here, it's like, what the heck? His mom also got the vaccine, and she's going through some stuff. And there's people in Vietnam. I went back to Vietnam last year, and I was talking to people over there about the vaccines, and the people that I asked, the ones that didn't get the vaccine, I asked them, why didn't you guys get it? And they were telling me that they saw that the people that did get the vaccine started losing their memory. They
Yeah.
didn't have a strong memory anymore.
Hey,
What
think.
were you going to say?
I was going to say that you think about that about in Vietnam about if you're right about the fact they use that as a test bed for the vaccine, that means that those people got the bad vaccine. you know, I mean,
That's right.
yeah. If they were testing it on the Vietnamese, that means that they were running through multiple versions of it to supposedly get it right. And like you said, there's people here in America who still think this is. I'm gonna share with you a little story of mine, and I'm a big science guy. So, I generally, I know that people, you talk about. I'm not talking about Corona here, about vaccines in general. There's always a small percentage of the population that has an adverse effect. As a general rule, I find that vaccines have been helpful. But so in January of 21, was it? I got the two Moderna shots, right? And I thought, well, okay, that's good. All right, fine. So all right, so I'm vaccinated, right? Okay, whoop de do. So then about 3 months, not even 3 months, I think it was 2 months after that, they said, well, you need a booster shot. And I'm thinking, well, I'm 68 years old, and I'm thinking, I've never needed more than two vaccinations for anything or per year for anything I've ever had ever. Never. So why do I need a third shot? And I just happen to have I have meeting with my doctor. I had an appointment with my doctor, and I asked her. I said, "Laura, they're saying I need a booster shot. Why?" And my doctor says to me, she says, "Well, Jim, I got to tell you, we're wondering the same thing." And that's when I knew the whole thing was bullshit. And I don't know if you know this, but the Cleveland Clinic has determined, and they did a huge study, 50,000 people, 50,000 patients. Cleveland Clinic, along with the Mayo Clinic, probably the most prestigious medical institution in America, they concluded statistically that you were more likely to get COVID if you got a booster shot than if you didn't. So, they didn't work. I mean, I know there's people who say they're actually hurting people, and yeah, I don't have any evidence of that. I mean, I keep an open mind, but the shots did not work. I mean, we know that for a fact. So what the hell? What is it? Just an idea? Was it just that Pfizer needed more $15 billion? What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, uh, I I I don't know if this is true or not, but I hear that there is a huge link now between the cancer rates, the blood clotting, and all this type of stuff with those who got the vaccine. I'm not going to say it because as soon as you told me you got the vaccine, I feel like I shouldn't talk any negative
No,
stuff.
no, 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 no,
To
no, no. If nothing happened to me, I might just be lucky. I mean, this is, literally, you're just playing, you're just rolling dice here. No, you go right ahead. It's like I'm not going to put down anybody who thinks if the vaccine there seems to be a lot of anecdotal evidence that these vaccines did hurt people, and also, people go on and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about him being a conspiracy nut, but I think I th- his claims are at least something that need to be looked into at the very least. I mean, no, no, no. You can put down the vaccines all you want. I mean, if I nothing happened to me, I just got lucky. I figure that's all. So
yeah. Well, I I I I believe this is I said it before and I strongly believe it still that the I don't believe the coronavirus, which they had to change the name to COVID-19 because coronavirus basically is another way of saying the flu, right?
yeah,
So they
right.
had to change the name. Yeah. So I don't believe that it was as dangerous as they said as they were making it out to be. I I remember after 9/11, right? The news station, it was CNN, exactly right after 9/11. They were talking about all these military weapons that they were sending to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first place that, not Iraq, but Iran. And they were having these 3D images of tanks and machine guns, and they were breaking it down. Like, this is the type of gun that we're using. This is the type of helicopter. These are the missiles that we're going to be firing off from these helicopters. And they made a big like propaganda stuff. Fast forward to the COVID thing that was going on, they did the same thing. Every time I was watching CNN, I didn't watch it that much, but I remember there was a ticker of how many people were dying. They never took it off.
Yeah,
Even during the
that's
commercials, they
right.
had it on.
That's right.
And I'm like, what? Yeah.
I,
And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, even without the coronavirus, you could put a ticker of just people that die on the
that's
regular.
right. You
We don't live
could.
forever.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
we
was
don't live
crazy.
forever. We die.
I'm totally with you. It was completely
And they
crazy. So when
propaganda.
when in March, the whole pandemic basically started on the Saturday, the 10th of March, 2020. And I had just started working for Conk News, which is our sponsor here. And I was the editor there, the editor in chief. And so we were going to start a 15-minute video newscast on YouTube. That's where we're going to start. And so we started doing basically test shows. We were doing them 5 nights a week. We did them for about 6 weeks, starting in April of 2020. And so because the whole pandemic had just started, I started to compile statistics from both the CDC and the state of Minnesota website. We're here in Minnesota, so I thought that was the obvious thing. And what I noticed, it only took me a month to figure this out. That what I noticed is that basically, you're talking about the fact that this wasn't dangerous. It was dangerous for people that were over 70. If you were elderly, it really did kill people. That's true. If you were under 50, if you're under 50, there was no pandemic. There was nothing to be concerned about. It was only affected people who were old and sick. And that was obvious only a month into it, you know? So, and then, so we went through all this crap, and I was sitting there, I'm thinking, are my figures wrong? Did I calculate this incorrectly? Why are we going through all this shit? Well, the reason we're going through this shit is because our political leaders are morons. That's why. It's like either that or they want to control us, which, I wouldn't put that past them either. But it was the whole thing. The whole thing was handled completely incorrectly, you know? I mean, and the thing is, the other thing, and this really gets to me too, there's no nuance in what the government puts out. Like I said, it was truly dangerous for people who were old. If you were elderly, this virus was coming to get you. It still is, as far as I can tell, even though, I've said this many times, the flu kills 40,000 people in America a year. And in 2018, it killed 80,000 people. And that's pretty much where we're at COVID now. And I don't know this. I've never tracked the statistics for the flu, but I'm guessing the flu kills mostly elderly people too. That's my guess. So you were absolutely right. It was basically the flu. And I was saying that like in June and July, we were doing these shows. I'm saying, there's nothing really to be afraid of here, and there wasn't, Now that said, I know 2 people who were 32 years old, and they didn't know each other, who were completely healthy and died of COVID. But that shit happens. They're anomalies, just like I was saying, like I know that even, a certain number of people are going to die from any vaccine. That's, it should be a really, really small percentage, but it's bound to happen, but just because I know 2 people that happened to doesn't mean I was wrong. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know anybody that died from it. I heard of people that died from it. Like some friends of mine said that this person that I might have met somewhere died. But the majority of people that I knew all had it. I don't think I know one person that didn't have it now.
Uh-huh.
But out of all the people that I know, yeah, did you get it? Did
Yes.
you get the
Yes, I did.
coronavirus?
I got it
Yeah.
way, way later, and I only had it for 12 hours. Although for 12 hours, I felt pretty goddamn shitty. I did. But yeah, it just went away. I went to bed. I woke up, it was gone. So yeah, that's what happened to me.
Okay. Yeah, I got it and it lasted like a week. But I've had a similar flu before where it was really bad just like that. Maybe not as bad as the flus I had, but I remember having this type of the same symptoms when I was younger in high school. I remember in high school we would still go to class with sniffling
Yeah.
noses and all this type.
And you
Yeah,
know why I think? Do you know why you still went to class? Because you weren't pussies. That's why.
that's right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right.
this is
All
unbelievable.
I
I don't know
did
about
was
where.
sneeze.
I've never even asked you. Where are you calling from? Where do you live?
I'm over in New York area, in the upstate New York area.
Okay, so I'm in
What?
Minneapolis, and I grew up in Minnesota, not in Minneapolis, but I grew up in Minnesota, and our winters here are pretty bad. But when I was growing up, we would have maybe 1 or 2 snow days every year where they canceled school. That was like a big deal. And now It's like they will cancel school in the drop of a hat. It's just incredible. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's gonna rain or something. Oh Jesus Christ. It's like, and then we wonder why the Chinese are beating us, Shit. Anyway,
I'll
I
tell you, in Buffalo, Buffalo, real quick, Jim, in Buffalo of last year, there was a snowstorm that killed a whole. It was 2 years ago. It was a snowstorm that killed a whole bunch of people, like maybe 30 people or something like that. I went to Buffalo. I'm a field engineer. I went over there to fix some server equipment because people were breaking into businesses, and
uh-huh.
I saw the snow. It wasn't that bad.
Really?
It's just it doesn't se yeah, it wasn't that bad compared to the snows that I had in my youth. It was nothing, but just that little bit of snow, I don't know why. I looked at it, I'm like, "How can this little amount of snow, like, just take down the whole city like that and kill so many people?" The people in Buffalo said that it was so quick, that it happened so quickly, like it happened in one day. But I remember snows being that bad when I was a child. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Why, like you said, we had snow, major storms back then, but we still went to school,
Yeah.
you know. But now it's just a little bit of snow, and then they're like they're. It just doesn't seem like they're prepared. I'm sorry, Jim. Were you gonna say something?
No.
I kind of cut
No,
you off.
no, 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 no. Believe me, no, no. It's a talk show, and you're the guest, so like, don't worry about that. My mother's 100 years
Okay.
old. My mother's 100 years old. And I
Oh,
asked her. I said, when I was growing up, were those storms really a lot as bad as I thought they were? And she said, oh yeah. She said they were. It was the weather was way worse in the 1960s and 70s than it is now. That's what she says. So, she was around. I assume she knows. But yeah, I don't understand it's not even just the weather per se. What's happening to the populace? How come why is everyone getting so damn soft about everything? This is what I don't understand. I really don't. And I think it's like it's to our detriment.
yeah. I would say it's by design almost. I
Oh
strongly
yeah.
believe that it's by design to
Yeah.
weaken the men and to empower. I don't know why there's this huge movement to empower women. I wish I want women to be stronger. And right now, I know that during in sports, women they're trying to make sports where the women and the men compete. And right now, the men are winning. But maybe in the future, the women can build up their physique and strength and maybe compare. But it's just kind of weird that they're doing that right now. That they're empowering women so much and depowering the men. It just it doesn't make sense to me why there's this huge movement in gender. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't touch this subject yet.
Oh yeah. No.
I'm still trying to formulate it in my mind if this is a natural progression of our evolution or is if there is some sort of agenda to do something. I'm still formulating it. So I'm sorry
Well,
if
no, no. You
you
see,
don't
you're
mind if
you're
I
lucky here because you're anonymous. Nobody knows who you are and where you're calling from. Or anything, I but so I will weigh in on this, and I shouldn't either. But right now, it appears to me that it's because the women want to do this, and the real problem with that is that, and I don't understand this, but I've talked to a lot of men, and unfortunately, you have to do this in private conversations because this is not political. This is not polite political discussion, but
yes.
there's a whole slew of liberal women, not only in the United States but worldwide, who seem to be absolutely intent on wanting to control everything. And you probably heard this. There's a moniker for this called AWFLs, which stands for affluent white female liberals. Which is it's a fantastic
Mhm.
moniker for this, but it does seem to be true. And I don't know. I don't know what drives them. I think a lot of them think that they've been permanently suppressed by men. Okay, maybe that's true. Fine, but it seems like what's happening is above and beyond even what you'd call retribution. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's a you're not the only person who thought about this. It's like I even know a couple women who've said they agree, they think that's what's happening. So I don't know. But like I said, you can talk. You're anonymous. You can say anything you want. I'm crazy for
Yeah,
doing that.
well, yeah, that is true. I am
That's
anonymous.
right. You are.
And yeah, all right. So here's the thing that since I am anonymous, I might as well just say go a little bit more extreme on this. I think that the problem, if we were allowed to allow women to get, if we are allowed, if we allow women power so quickly like this, they will not know how to use it properly. I don't know how to explain this.
No. I totally agree.
You,
I want to stop you. I totally agree with you completely. Matter of fact, I think that's where we're heading. And so anyway, go ahead. Go on.
all right. The best analogy for this, and I'm gonna get really, I'm anonymous. I'm gonna get a little sexist here, but the best analogy for this is in Vietnam, right? No, first off, let's say the dogs here in America. If you see a pit bull here in America, you will be scared of it because you know that dog can bite you. In fact, the majority of the dogs here in America, if they see you, they'll bark at you and they'll probably chase you and bite you. But
Yeah.
in Vietnam, a country where the people eat the dogs and kill them, they run away from the people. Dogs over there don't bark. They keep as quiet as possible
Well,
because if they know if they bark,
hold on a second. You just brought the show a whole full circle because I was just talking about the top of the show about the fact that the only reason people do all this shit is because no one stops them. There's no incentive to
right?
quit.
That's basically
And yeah,
right.
so you're saying that in Vietnam the dogs run away from people because they don't want to be eaten. Jesus,
Right, right.
do you have to be a
And that's
genius to figure that out?
yeah. Here's another crazy thing in Florida: the alligators run away from people as well because people actually hunt alligators over there. I
Yeah,
mean, they don't run up. Yeah, and so back to the whole women thing. I think that when you empower the women and us men, I feel that us men, when we talk to each other, there's a level of respect that we
yeah,
talk because I think ever since we were children, when we fight a lot.
right.
Men fight, and as you get older, there's this ego thing. But eventually, we learn to deal with it. Like, okay, I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say it because I remember in the past when I said this to this guy, he got mad, and we almost fought, or we did fight. But I think that women haven't hasn't fought. That they haven't fight. They didn't fight so much, and as an adult, they speak without respect.
Yes,
So a lot of if you were to give women like authority and without respect, and they don't have that respect in return, I think it builds a lot of problems. And a prime example of this is every time I call for tech support, right? I'm a field engineer. Engineers work in a pair. I'm out in the field. I call it a remote engineer to remote into the systems when I repair it.
hmm,
And every time I have a female on the line, I can tell that they don't know what they're talking about sometimes, the majority of the times.
yeah,
I've met women on engineers that are incredible,
yeah,
but the majority of them don't know what they're talking about. And when I try to explain it to them, it hits an ego with them, and they will consistently argue a point that makes no sense. Like the, 2 plus 2 should not equal 5; it should equal
no,
4. But they will argue the case to the end
yeah,
to tell me to do something that I shouldn't, and it's just ridiculous. So as the years progress, I just hang up on them and call back over and over until I try to get a man. It's just how I do deal with things now. I just been in that scenario so much where I run into this a woman where for some reason she just feels like I stepped over her ego, and
right,
then now she's just has to prove me wrong so that she could be right.
yeah,
And it's okay. It's okay to prove someone wrong, but if they're right and you're forcing them, then you're proving them. You're making them wrong. You're making the whole scenario wrong. And when I'm trying to repair something, it has to be a right. There's no
of
wrong.
course.
I don't know if that. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I fear. if women were to be empowered so quickly.
I
I
don't
just don't think they have a level of respect yet.
I don't think I've ever heard a better analogy to what's going on. I mean, because you're absolutely right. So I will throw out two ideas here. One is the fact that you're talking about, respect, like that concept of respect, at least among each other. I'm not the only person who notices this, and I think this is the reason I'm bringing this up first. Is think this may be genetic. Women among each other are really, really mean in a way that men aren't. You know,
That's right.
and they don't
Right.
they don't seem to be able to let go of a grudge too. And then the other thing you're talking about is about the fact, like 2 plus 2 equals 5. Um, the, I don't know how to explain this either, but you're absolutely right. It's like and I don't know if that's a cultural thing or what, but it seems to be that. Oh God, I lost my train of thought again. Shit, what the hell? They gotta put me out to pasture. I think they gotta, like, take me out behind the barn and shoot me. What was I all right, what was I thinking? It was, about the fact that women, oh god. Oh, forget it. Anyway,
With my analogy, the 2 plus 2 equals 5 is an ego. Were you about to elaborate on that, it being an ego thing?
yeah, I was, but I can't even remember what my specific point was. So, well, look, I tell you what, I should let you go anyway because I gotta wrap this up. So it's
All
always
right.
a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad you called. Please keep calling. I really appreciate it.
All right.
You take care,
Thanks
all
for
right?
having me
I'll
on.
talk to
Take
you
care.
soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Mm.
That's Think from upstate New York. Great guy. I can't remember what my point was. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. All right, so I'm going to do the con commercial now. Here we go. Our sponsor for this unholy mess is Conk News at conk.com. So, and Jeff Meyer runs Conk News. He's going to be on tomorrow. He's going to be our guest. We have him on once a month. So, Conk News is a news aggregator, and it's the finest one on the internet. I'm going to tell you why. There's a couple of really specific reasons. It's different than all the other news aggregators, and there's a lot of them. I don't have to tell you that. This is the front page of Conk News in real time right down here. So, and what do we got? I'm just looking at this page turned over since we started the show. I prepare this about half an hour before we start here, and I actually saw the flash of the rollover. And the reason that happens is because Conk News updates every 3 hours, and the way it does that is thus: its servers, Kong News servers, go out onto the internet to 75 different pre-approved websites and grabs the latest story. They're all news sites, of course. They grabs the latest stories and brings them into their fold, and then it lays them out on the front page. Now, here's the part where it's different in chronological order. Okay, you're thinking, well, Jesus, all the news aggregators do that. No. All with this way, the standard news aggregator works thus: it has the top 10 stories, latest stories from like Breitbart, the latest stories from Fox News, the latest stories from Red State, all that sort of stuff. No, Kong takes all these stories and mixes them all together and puts the newest one at the top of the page, regardless of the source. So they're all mixed together. And that's the cool thing about it. That's the reason Kong News is more like a regular, real, traditional old time newspaper than any other news website you ever find. It's seriously cool. So you can spend a couple hours reading this. I mean, you can't see this here, but this is basically Conk is basically a one-page website, and there's stories here. This page scrolls down a very long way, and like I said, it does this every 3 hours. So you come at 10 o'clock, you can spend 2-3 hours reading some of the stories here. If you click through, the photos are from the stories themselves. The headlines are from not rewritten. They're from the stories too. And if you click through, you go directly to the story. You don't go to an ad page. You don't go to an interstitial. You don't go to the front page. None of that crap. You go right to the story. So it basically takes the entire news of the entire web and kind of puts it together in one place. So the other thing, and this is really important, this is free. Not only is it free, you don't have to register, you don't have to subscribe, you don't have to log in, none of that shit. You just go to conch.com or conch.news, which you see at the I'm running my cursor over there. You can't see my cursor. I'm stupid. Conch.news, either one will take you to Conch News. And so yeah, this is I did, as I mentioned, was starting to think I worked for these people for a few years. It's a fantastic product. It really is. I was proud of it, and they're rightly proud of it too. So check this out if you get a chance. It's a news junkie's delight, and I use it to prepare the show too. So thank you. So let's go to part 3 here. Part 3 is a part of our show where we talk about like science and paranormal stuff. I'm glad that Think brought that up about the fact that, I've told that story several times about in 2020 about how I was compiling statistics on COVID, and it wasn't even I started collecting the statistics in April. By early May, it was plainly obvious that this was a disease of the old and the sick. It was plainly obvious. And how come they didn't, the fact is, if you were over 70, you should have been quarantined. You should have. Everyone else, no. If you're under 50, there's basically no pandemic at all. I mean, yeah, I knew a couple of people who died of COVID who were really young, but seriously, they're statistical outliers. That happen. People get hit by cars. People die of the flu, like I was talking about. You know, I don't know why we don't pay any attention to the two science in this culture. And that's also gets back to I'll just wrap up what before Thing Called was talking about the election, about the fact that why are we so stupid? If we elect Kamala Harris, we get the government we deserve. I mean, I won't tell you that she'll destroy democracy. That's bullshit. That's not going to happen. She will destroy the economy. That I'm sure of. So if you think the economy is bad now, and by the way, there's more evidence. I didn't get around to talking about that tonight. Maybe we'll talk about the Jeff tomorrow because he's a real business guy. There's more evidence that the economy is underlined in the numbers, but that's really going to hell. And Bill O'Reilly said this, and it's really for people who don't have an education in economics, it's a really good way to put this. The reason the economy is slowly going to hell is because people are running out of money to spend, and they are. Groceries have gone up so much in gas, and people are having a hard time keeping track of their bills. Hell, in most of the country, even electricity's gone up. You know, people are having a hard just keeping up with their bills. They have less and less disposable income, and there's less and less stuff they buy. It's really quite simple. That's the reason. So, and if this keeps going the way it will hit a brick wall, and we will end up with either a major recession or a depression or some sort of economic catastrophe. Now, I have predicted for about a year now that would happen before the 2020 election. I might be wrong, but I made 2 predictions here about the fact that that's gonna happen, that there'll be 2 black swan events, and that they won't be manufactured, or one of 2. The one was that the economy will crater, and the other is the, Israel-Hamas war, that something will happen that will basically I don't know if it'll be the onset of World War III, I hope not, or what, but there will be some major event in either one of those things. So, I mean, so far, it looks like, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, it's, yeah, our part 3 news here. So you probably know, the Starliner astronauts are stuck on the space station till February. The latest thing coming from there, well, first of all, they're gonna dump the actual Starliner spacecraft. They're going to they're planning on doing that, I think, this coming week. They're going to release it and attempt to land it by remote control. If it doesn't, it'll burn up in the atmosphere, but at least there won't be any people involved in it on board. Now, the latest thing is that the Starliner astronauts now you have to understand the way this works is when they have these spacecraft docked to the space station, they leave the hatches open during the entire time. The reason is in case there's some very, very uh, quick event like a meteor shower or something where they have to escape, so they can run into these spacecraft and undock them. That's the reason. So now you wouldn't want to do that with a Starliner because if you undocked it, you'd have to land it. And that is actually the point. But at any rate, that's the reason they leave the hatches open. So one of the Starliner astronauts has called Mission Control and told them there's weird there's weird sounds coming out of the Starliner, and specifically out of the speakers. It's not a sound like in the capsule. There's weird sounds coming out of the sound speakers that they have for the crew that are embedded in the ceiling. So weird. So and they don't know what it is. It sounds like kind of like a radar ping or something like that. But the thing is, so far, at least over last I heard, they've sent recordings of this to Mission Control. No one can figure it out. Yeah, that's great. Not only is your spacecraft disabled, it's haunted. Holy shit! I mean, just hilarious. Oh man. Okay, you know what the number one uh, state in the United States is for UFO sightings? This will surprise you. It's Montana. And this is the other surprising thing. This blows my mind, actually. I know there are not a lot of people in Montana, but still, half of the people in Montana, half of them, 50% of the Montana population said that they've seen a UFO. Half of them. It's like, Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Delaware came in second. And that's a tiny, tiny little state, too. Like, okay, so let me see. I got one more thing here. Well, you got your airline pilots seeing UFOs over the Atlantic Ocean. You got that. I mean, these reports are, and finally, we've talked about Jazz Shaw was on Thursday, and we talked about Louis Elizondo's new book called Eminent. He's getting a lot of blowback right now, which there seems. I'm under the impression I think the government pays people to be skeptics. I do because we know for a fact the government paid people years ago to do that. I think it's still going on. I don't see why they would stop. But once again, why would they stop? You know. So I think that's the theme of our show tonight, isn't it? It's like if there's no incentive for you to quit something, you're not going to quit doing it. It's as simple as that. Remember that in all your dealings, everybody. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Tomorrow night, Jeff Meyer. Thursday night, nothing. I'm taking Thursday off. I'm gonna be off for 10 days. I'm going to Niagara Falls, not in a barrel, but should be interesting. Me and 14 of my relatives. 15 actually. My wife. She's a relative, right? Yeah, I guess. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank for calling. I really love the callers. We don't get a lot of callers here, but I have to say they're real high quality people. They always have something interesting to say, even if I don't agree with them. As long as you're coaching, man, you can talk here. This is a place for you. So anyway, thanks for watching. Good night, Uncle Donnie. Good night, Esperanza, and good night to you wherever you are. I'll see you tomorrow night. Jeff Meyer. Take care.